Hey everyone, Shaun Stevenson here, author of the Thrones series, and today I'm trying out a new filming location. As you can see, I just recently redid my library. You can check out my DIY home library of my dreams video on the channel, but I just redid my library, so I am trying out some different spots, seeing what I think of like where I like filming the best. So right now, here we are. And today I have got, oh wow, this book. I've got the most Scooby-Doo of Scooby-Doo kinds of books there ever was. And that is book number 2 in the BloodHounds Inc. series, The Mystery of the Invisible Night by Bill Myers. This 100% reminds me of the Scooby-Doo episode from the original series where they are in the museum, I believe, with the knight that's just like haunting the museum, looking for some kind of a treasure, something like that. I don't remember all the details, but I do visibly remember that episode. And as I was reading this book, I kept thinking, this is pretty much just like the same thing in so many ways. So let's talk about it. This is the second book in the Bloodhound Inc. series, and this is a Christian mystery / sort of spooky series. And honestly, it really more falls into like the old school Scooby-Doo. Like that is really what this is like. There's never anything that's like super like spooky happening. It's more like something's going on. These two kids and their bloodhound are trying to solve the mystery, and there's like literal like madcap zaniness. Like that is like the best way to describe it. Like this book series so far, I've read 3 of these, and so far in this book series, it is just one ridiculous like thing after another, but it's kind of fun in a like Saturday morning Scooby-Doo cartoon kind of way. So you have like moments where there's like a series of chain reaction events that like this happens and then that causes this to happen and that causes this to happen, and it is really cinematic that way, and those parts are a lot of fun. I really enjoy them. So what's happening in this book? In BloodHounds Inc. Book 2, this particular episode of this book series, the 2 kids, Shaun and Melissa, they are on another case because there are some places getting broken into in town, and there's been sightings of a knight that is like a ghost of some kind, because the knight takes off its helmet and there's nothing underneath. There's no head. And so like, what's going on? What's happening with this knight in the town? And it appears that there's a mysterious poem that alludes to the fact that the knight is after these certain things in order to take over the town. This book is so zany. Zany is just the right word for this, because so many zany things happen. We have a lot of great sequences. Shaun and Melissa have a pretty good dynamic, I feel like, for a brother and sister detective agency. Their dad still works at the radio station, so they kind of get some like interesting clues and tidbits from the radio station, and they can like get information that way. And Melissa and Shaun, they're pretty good at piecing together the mystery in a way that makes sense. And especially sometimes I've been wondering as I'm reading the series, okay, these are like 2 kids and they live with their dad and they're like going all over town. Like, is this plausible in the sense of like 2 kids just being able to go do all kinds of detective agency work? And Bill Myers makes it believable in the sense that the dad is very much involved in what's happening, but not in a way that like squashes their detecting, as sometimes a lot of books, when they do bring in parents in the middle grade age group, the parents either like get overly involved in what's happening or they get way under involved and are not told anything, or like kind of squash what's going on. And I feel like this book actually strikes a really good balance with this dad who is a single dad, and he is, trying to make ends meet, which is also a very interesting depiction, because this is not that it's not that often we have single dads in middle grade fiction. It doesn't happen a lot, but I think that this is in particular is an interesting depiction of that, because we have a single dad who's trying to make ends meet. He's got his two kids who are very energetic and very curious and wanting to solve these mysteries in town, and he like supports them, but he also like gives them good safety rails, so to speak. Like, he's just like a pretty good dad in that sense, I felt like. So I really like that depiction of him, and I feel like it's fairly realistic. Obviously, there are a lot of unrealistic things happening here. Like, the mysteries are barely solvable because the answers and solutions to these mysteries are so out there that it just is, it doesn't even super make sense. I will say, in this case, I was able to guess a big piece of the mystery, but there's another part of it you will never guess until near the end, and when that piece of information is revealed. And I thought that was actually fun. It didn't feel like a cheat. It didn't feel like well, we never would have known that. It definitely felt like a good reveal, a good twist to the plot, something that made everything come together in a more fun way that I really enjoyed, actually. Now, I do have to give a warning about this book. And this is a slight spoiler. So if you do not want this spoiler, skip ahead like a minute so that way you can skip this. I will say that you should be, I'll just say this before I go into it a little bit. I will just say, if you are someone who does not like when bad things happen to animals, this is probably not a book for you. And now, if you want more information, stick around for a minute. If you don't want any more information than that, skip ahead a minute. All right, last chance to skip ahead. Here we go. So there is one scene that I felt like, oh, I need to talk about that in my review, because I would not want someone who loves animals to read this book without knowing this tiny piece of information going in. And even for younger kids, if you have younger kids who might read this book, I think it's important to know that there is this scene. So there is one scene where the bloodhound in this book gets hit by a car. Now, I will tell you, this is a kid's book. So things in this particular kid's book, this is not Where the Red Fern Grows. In this particular kid's book, things turn out. And that's what I'll say. But that scene was pretty intense and pretty serious. That's one of the interesting things about this book and this series so far. This series in the first two books, book 3, we're going to talk about another time. But in the first two books so far, there's like all this zaniness that happens. There's really funny jokes that happen. And then there are these like super serious moments. And this one is a super serious moment that I did feel like might have gone a little too far. And I felt, as I was reading it, I thought, oh, wow, I can't believe you did that. And that just happened. It's kind of a traumatic scene. I'm not going to lie. Like, I don't have any pets, but I do have a lot of friends who have pets. I have family members who have pets, and I was feeling this. So there we go. That's the warning. You can come back now if you were skipping ahead. So that's the warning. So overall, this is a pretty fun entry of the series. Like I said, sometimes the series has these super serious moments where things do get really serious and there's good conversations. Now, this is a Christian book series. And one of the things I actually have been appreciating about this book series so far is that this is probably Bill Myers's least quote unquote preachy. Now, sometimes people talk about Christian fiction and they use the term preachy. And what they mean by that is that sometimes people read a Christian book and there's like an extended scene where we're explaining Bible verses. I think the worst offender of this is the Left Behind book series by Tim LaHaye and Jerry B. Jenkins. I have read those books in the past, so I have read them all. I have read them. I do not really like them, I will just say. But those books, I feel like, are some of the worst offenders of this, where it is chapter upon chapter upon chapter of explaining Bible verses and explaining theological stances and different ideas. And Bill Myers, in some of his other books, he does do that. But in this particular series so far, he hasn't really done that. There's actually been more organic things because the family, the dad and Shaun and Melissa, they go to church and they are Christians. And it comes out more organically in their questions. Like they're wondering about like, why do bad things happen? Why does this, like why would God let this happen in particular? And I feel like Bill Myers actually handles those questions in a really good way from a Christian perspective that's not preachy, it's not, overextending its welcome. It's like it's there because the characters are Christians. It's not there to teach the reader stuff, which is where I think Christian fiction sometimes goes too far. I don't like it when I read a Christian fiction book and all of a sudden it's like, are you trying to tell me something as the reader instead of letting this organically come out of your story? Because that's not my favorite. So overall, this one was another fun entry in this book series. So I would give The Mystery of the Invisible Night a solid 4 out of 5 stars. This one, it's not like your best book ever. Some people are probably not going to like it if you like Scooby-Doo and you're okay with that Christian like kind of piece in there every now and again. This is a fun, zany middle grade story from the 90s. Like, emphasis on the zany. If you are the kind of person who everything has to make a lot of sense and be very logical, don't read this book series. This is a definitely check out sort of brainless book series that's just zany and funny, and you're gonna have a good Saturday morning cartoon time. That's what this book series is. So until next time, everybody, keep reading. Bye.